CW.
Hey, Rita Wild.
How you doing,
back,
bud?
everybody. I'm good.
Excellent.
We got a great show. Two-parter.
I so enjoyed this. If you have ever wondered what it was like to work in the rock and roll business at the highest level, our next guest will be able to answer many of your questions. Paul Rappaport was just a regular guy growing up in Southern California who enjoyed seeing legendary concerts and even played guitar in his own band. As fate would have it, someone recommended that he apply for a job as a college rep for Columbia Records. He got the job, and before long, he was using his creativity and love for music to help elevate the careers of Pink Floyd, the Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen, and even stalwart label mates like Tony Bennett and Bob Dylan.
He just released his critically acclaimed book, Gliders Over Hollywood. So without further ado, let's welcome our special guest who logged 33 1/3 years at Columbia Records, Mr. Paul Rappaport.
AKA Rap. Hello, Paul.
Hey. Is this okay for you? Levels and whatnot?
Yeah, you sound
Sounds
great.
great
I'm checking
for me.
levels on my end, but so far you sound great.
Okay. I don't know if I need to be closer, cool, I'm good.
No, your voice sounds very radio
You
friendly.
sound like a DJ, man.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's start this because we got.
That was Pink Floyd.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Do the Jim Ladd thing.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Lord have mercy. We got some
Excellent.
Lord have mercy t-shirts to give away.
So I'm CW, and I can't remember for the life of me, Paul, if we met. I feel like we had to have run into each other at some point. But you guys know each other, right?
Oh yeah.
No, never met him.
Okay.
She never heard of me.
CW did promotions for us, so that's why.
And also
You
worked the
know,
rock line.
So Rockline, I guess I would always talk to Bob, I guess. So, but maybe you might have been there when, by the time the 80s come, I'm in New York.
Okay.
So I'm not, I started in LA for 12 years, but I come to run the rock promotion department in 80. So I'm less in LA then. So when Rockline happens, sometimes I come, like if it's Paul McCartney or somebody, but otherwise it's all telephone and Bob Coburn.
Or if it was in New York, maybe you'd go to the studio there.
Oh, yeah.
This is Paul Rappaport. For those of you that are unaware of him, he's one of those guys that kind of grew up just like us. You grew up here in Southern California, and you loved listening to the radio. You went to so many great concerts when you were living here before you got into the business. You saw Jimi Hendrix at the Hollywood Bowl, and you said that was amazing, right?
Yes.
And
I was lucky to see Jimi Hendrix at the Hollywood Bowl. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. And you saw the Rolling Stones, that epic concert, the Nicaragua benefit that went till like 5:30 in the morning.
Yes.
You got to see and meet Janis Joplin.
Yes.
Oh my God. And this is before you got into the business.
Yes, this is all before I get into the music business. But, it's always been about the music. I mean, the business kind of showed up, in my lap, and I sort of fell into it. I didn't have it wasn't a design like I have to be in the music business. I was just really into music and, got a job offer while I was a kid at UCLA playing in bands. And they had a college rep program, which a couple of the bigger companies had. They realized that with all this new music, it would be great to have street teams at colleges with kids who know this music, who could, go to the Daily Brew and get a review, go to the local, the college radio station, help bring bands on campus, put displays up. And I just, my first boss called his attorney. His attorney was alumni of this fraternity I had joined. And one day I'm sitting on the steps and one of my fraternity brothers shows up with just a piece of paper with a phone number on it. And it says, hey, they're looking for a part-time, person to work at a record company. We figure that's you. Because in my fraternity room, I had, amps and guitars and, kept the brothers up all night practicing and everything. And I played a couple dances for them. So with pickup bands. So, so it was quite by accident, but it's the music really. I think what's interesting is, even when you think about it, Rita, and CW, you guys wind up on the radio end. I wind up on the record end. but we're all sort of cut from this same sort of family of music. You just happened to get into radio, or you got into radio because you liked it or whatever. I just happened to get in the record business. But in the end of the day, we're all working with the same music, and we're all trying to find the best music for people to hear. One of the reasons I wrote this book was just sort of to capture this magical time of all of us. I didn't want to write a me book. I wanted to write a us book, because it's really about such a big, beautiful industry. I actually tried to write it without me in it in the beginning, because I just wanted to capture people that I thought were bigger than life, like, some of the disc jockeys, the Jim Ladds of the world, the Stephen Cleans of the world, for anybody who goes back in LA as far as, the early years at KPPC, and then capture behind the scenes people that nobody would know. Because sometimes the managers are a bigger show than the artists. I mean, these people are like, they're nuts in the most fantastic of ways, right?
Or not the fantastic ways.
well, I met some of those too. But I mean, you in the book you read about Herbie Herbert, who got out a Yiddish kick. I don't know why. He's not even Jewish, and he sends Yiddish for Dummies out to the whole industry. This is the manager of Journey. This is one of the biggest bands on the planet. If you want to talk to me or their famous road manager, Pat Morrow, Bubba was his nickname. He's still with us. He said, you got to speak a couple lines of Yiddish. I get the book. It's cute. It's fine, whatever. You get a call from him, and we had to decide a Journey single. I can't remember which album it was, but we were selling 50,000 albums a week. And when you release singles, when you're selling music, it's all about momentum. You release singles in a timely fashion. We have to know it in advance. We have to discuss it with the manager, with the artist. We have to put it into production. I have to tell the rock stations, because I'm the rock promotion guy, when it's coming. And I'll never forget, it was a Thursday, and we had to have this timely conversation, and he calls up, and he just starts speaking Yiddish. It was like, Herbie Herbert, line one. Hey, Herbie, how you doing? Was machst du? How are you in Yiddish, right? I'm like, what? Like, Herbie, I got the book. It's fun. It's cute. It's great. I said, but you and I have to have this conversation. It's 3:00 in the afternoon here in New York. We got to pick a Journey single. We got to do it now. This is, we're selling 50,000 albums a week. This is like a really heavy conversation. He goes, I know. Learn your Yiddish and call me back. Click. Now, this is rock and roll business in 1985, right? One of the reasons I wrote the book, I just wanted to share with people how wacky this was. Okay, this is a big money business, but it didn't matter because everybody was a show and everybody wanted to be a show. And Herbie loved the idea that he could make people learn Yiddish. In order for me to get the Journey single out, okay, I literally had to go find my Yiddish book, learn 2 lines of Yiddish, and call him back and speak 2 lines of Yiddish so I could get a Journey single out on time. Okay, people? That's the business I was in.
I'm laughing with
for
you.
30 years. No, that's so I wanted to share all these stories with people because they won't believe it. You're talking about a business where there was a business meeting. I'll just leave you with this for a second. There's a business meeting in the LA branch, which I started at Columbia Records and in Los Angeles, and I worked there for a dozen years before I came to New York. And there's a business meeting to discuss the fact that the LA branch, all our people, the promotion people, the sales people, the display people, will no longer be able to set our table on fire at future record company conventions. Right, because we were the rowdy bunch. Yeah, we were we were in Hollywood. We felt like we're the kings of the world. So they put us in the back. We would have these conventions, really big conventions at major hotels. At night there'd be dinner shows, ballroom, and it's a dinner and bands play, new bands, established bands, and they put us in the back because we were rowdy. And we would get inebriated and we would do other things. And the next thing you know, we're throwing rolls at each other and that escalates into forks and knives. And then at the end, we'd set our table on fire, just for this encore or whatever. We were the hit of the convention. I mean, people loved it. We did this for 2 years in a row. And finally, somebody in New York figured out this is not a good idea, right? We can't have people setting a table on fire in a ballroom at a major hotel. So there's a business meeting to discuss this fact that we can't do this, right? And fascinatingly, half the staff rebelled and wanted to know why not.
Wait, which side were you on?
Probably that one, if I remember me right, I was a bit of a rebel. But, so I tried to put all this down because I figured out, oh my God, I'm getting older. Once people like us aren't here anymore, it's going to be gone. Like somebody has to be around to tell these tales.
Absolutely.
So that kids coming up will go, are you kidding me? Like,
Our parents
can we
were
do
cool.
Yeah, can we do this again?
Exactly. I loved reading this book. I felt so much a part of it because it was everything that I still love and believe in, which is rock and roll. But the way that you opened the book talking about Springsteen and that show at the Roxy on July 5th, 1978, 2 nights before that, I guess it was that Bruce had played the Forum, and that was the first time I had ever seen him. The album had been out, that's Darkness on the Edge of Town, for about a month. I had just found out that maybe I could get into radio. It was like a college instructor of mine said, you have a nice voice and you really know a lot about music. You should try, radio. And it was like, yeah, why did I never think about radio? I went to sleep with the radio. I had the radio on all the time. And then the dots connected. But I remember being at that show with my friend Randy, and he was also in the radio class. And it's like, well, we got to go up there. We got to go up to, Sunset Boulevard. We got to at least try to get into the Roxy. And, he had to work, I had to work, and said, well, let's, destroy this quixotic notion of that we're going to be there, but we'll be able to listen to it on the radio. So obviously listen to it on the radio and all these bootlegs of it and whatever. But in the book, you talk about, you go behind the scenes with 3 of my people who inspired me to get into radio: Jim Ladd, Bob Coburn, and Mary Turner. And you're working with all 3 of these people in the prologue. And the story that goes behind it is just, oh my God, I had no idea how crazy it was.
Nobody had any idea until I wrote this book. John Landau, Bruce's manager, didn't know. Bruce doesn't know, right? I don't know if Bruce has read this yet, but when Landau read it, he went, oh my God. He goes, Bruce is going to go crazy when he reads this. I said, yeah. He was like, well, why didn't you tell us? I go, well, there was no time. It's like, it's something that happened and no one knows. There's a few things in this book that no one knows that I decided I would write because I thought they were fascinating. And those people were friends of mine beyond the business. Jim Ladd was a friend of mine beyond the business. Mary Turner, she still lives in my heart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you a Mary Turner story. It's an exclusive for Rock and Roll Confessions. We were really tight. Columbia at one time, after things were getting really big, and I think I was still Western Regional at that time, rock promotion. So I traveled up and down the coast of California into Colorado and whatever. And I always brought, bands, to the radio station and artists and, have dinners and this kind of stuff. And Columbia decided, because every once in a while somebody gets this genius idea in New York and they decide, maybe if we get somebody to just do artist relations, they could take all the people to the radio stations and then people like Paul Rappaport wouldn't have to do it. He could just work on other things. Now, what they didn't realize is those kind of things go hand in hand with building relationships, and if I can get, Bruce Springsteen to be on Mary Turner's show for an interview, that's a big deal, and it matters to Mary, and it matters to me, and it bonds Mary and I, right?
Bruce didn't do interviews.
He didn't. He did that one.
Interviews.
Yeah, so he did that one. So we have a dinner, and now all of us Western, all of the regional people have to introduce this new artist relations guy, right? This lasted for about 6 months, by the way. Anyway. The beautiful story is, so we're sitting there and Mary's there and I'm trying to turn out people to meet this guy because I'm trying to be a good soldier and this is a guy that's going to do this stuff. So the guy says, well, I'm going to be doing this and this and this. And Mary says, well, but Rap does that. And my nickname's, for anybody's listening, my nickname's Rap because my last name's Rappaport, right? So she says, well, Rap does that. And he goes, yeah, well, he's not going to do that, anymore. Like I'm going to be the guy that's going to do that. And Mary looks at him and she goes, there's no way you can do this as good as Rap. You won't do it like Rap.
That's high praise.
And that meant so much to me that somebody would stand up, just for me to try to put this guy in his place. Like, I don't know who you think you are, big artist relations guy from New York. And you can try to do this, but there's a way that this guy Rappaport works, which I took pride in. I'm just a people person, and I work a certain way, which if you read the book, you'll find out. And it just meant so much to me that she would do that, like on my behalf. And she's like a superstar. She's like the Lauren Bacall of rock and roll. I mean, to have someone like that stand up to this guy, and this guy he got schooled. I mean, he literally got schooled. I mean, he just shut up. And so, and I have wonderful stories about Jim. Early on, when I first met Pink Floyd, they had just come over from Capitol. So we had Wish You Were Here, right? That they had done Dark Side of the Moon on Capitol, and then we signed them. So their whole history beyond that is with Columbia. And so I meet them early on. They don't do interviews. They have this big mystique. And I meet them, and I'm a big fan of theirs. Like, Rita, like you're saying, like I'm listening to their music before I'm working for Columbia Records. Like I'm already a fan of these guys. And so I want to ask them questions about why they don't. I said, is it? And they're so unassuming. These are very laid back Englishmen, right? But when I met them, I didn't even think it was. I was like, is this Pink Floyd? Like they were so, calm and not rock starish, right? The opposite. And I said, why don't, do you guys not do interviews because you just want to keep this mystique? I said, because obviously a lot of your fans, of which I'm one, we kind of think you're aliens from another planet. And you just came down here to make this music. So we don't even believe you're real. So they laughed. And then Roger actually said, no, we don't do them because people don't know how to talk to us. All they want to know is what shirts I wear and what underwear I wear. I don't care. I don't like that. And I said, well, if I could bring you to someone who actually knew your music and cared about your music and could talk to you about your music, would you talk to that person? And him and Gilmore looked at me and said, yeah, sure we would. And I said, well, I have a friend named Jim Ladd who's got an interview show called Interview. He's also a disc jockey on KMET. And I think you would love to meet him, and he would certainly love to meet you. And that was one of the first interviews they'd ever done in the States. It may have been the first interview they ever did in the States. And I took him up to, Laurel Canyon, and, Ladd had a house on a hill, but you had to get into a tram. It was so cool. You had to get into a tram to go up the hill.
Like a vernacular or something.
Yeah, vernacular, yeah, to get to this fairy tale house. So I'm in this vernacular crammed, like it's like 6 feet by 6 feet, whatever. I'm crammed with, with Nick Mason and Gilmore and Wright, these guys. And we're going up the tram, and these guys look at me and go, this guy must be really cool. And I go, yeah, guys, this guy is really cool. And they hit it off with Jim, and both realized, each other's talents. I think Ladd interviewed him for a couple of hours, and then as you read in the book, Ladd, became really close to Roger Waters, and actually appeared on Radio Chaos and went on tour with Roger. And so, those kind of people, it's beyond the music. It's almost like we had like Jim Ladd. You can't promote Jim Ladd. He's unpromotable, right? You can't. Certain people you can talk to about music in a certain way. Ladd, you can mention things, facts, but there's no trying to excite him, or it's just not there. And it's a beauty about him. He's just this pure guy, right? And so I wanted to write about him, and I wanted people to meet Jim Ladd. I don't want people to forget Jim Ladd. That's why he's in the book. I don't want people to forget Bob Coburn. I don't want people to forget Mary Turner. I don't want people to forget Stephen Kleen. Stephen Kleen is a genius. And I only use that term to describe people like Stephen Kleen and Bob Dylan, because everybody throws that term around like genius. Stephen Kleen was a genius. I mean, I don't know how he did what he did or what came out of his head, the stories and the radio shows that would just drag you along in this political world and all these things. And at the end, with music and everything, you would just get this big, oh, wow. It was like seeing the end of a Pink Floyd concert, like every show, right? But kids used to miss school to listen to Stephen Kleen because they were afraid they were going to miss something important, right? I wanted people to know about those people aside from getting to meet your favorite rock star in a way that maybe you wouldn't know, because I got to be close with a lot of those folks. So if you're interested in any of this stuff, the book is called Gliders Over Hollywood. It's got an extra little name to it: airplay, airships. Airships, airplay, and the art of rock promotion. But all you have to remember is gliders over Hollywood. Just think of balsa wood gliders being flown over Hollywood. There's a story in there about that. So,
And Paul, give us just a quick overview of what you did for Columbia, because I think a lot of people know about radio because they listen all the time. I think that the average listener is like, it's still kind of, there's that mystique of like, what really happened through the record companies and what did they do? Because as I read this book, you're not just like going to a radio station saying, play my record. You're creating events and promotions and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the job in those days, the job of a promotion person was to deal with radio, whatever format they were in charge of. So I was in charge of rock. They had people that did top 40. They had people that, that promoted country, that promoted jazz, R&B. The rock thing became a specialized business because of rock exploding in the late 60s and early 70s. The record business before this isn't even thought of as making that much money. It's only when rock explodes that the record business finds this whole new windfall of dollars and cents. And you read the book in the very beginning, in the early 70s, I have an expense account with no ceilings. I mean, I can't, like, I'm a kid, right? Imagine that, but it's the Wild West. We're making it up as we go along. By the time mid 70s come and the 80s hits, it's a big business. So to answer your question, my job, first of all, is to bring music to radio, at the time, FM rock radio, turn disc jockeys onto it, music directors, program directors, tell them some information about the album. Maybe there's something exciting about the album, and hopefully have them listen and say, oh, wow, this is really good. Maybe we'll, give this a shot. Maybe we can play it at night, or we can start out, maybe somebody in the afternoon will just give it a spin just to see if we can get some reaction from fans, because that's what you're looking for. A lot of people think the record companies make these priority decisions, and that's who gets, worked and gets the money behind them, and other people are left behind. That's not really true. We do make decisions based on what we think, from being music people, what we think there are priorities that we'd like to see, but we try to promote everything, to give everything a shot, get airplay at least somewhere for somebody, or make a video, put them on tour, so we know. How we know what to push harder depends on you guys. When listeners call up and go, whoa, what was that? Play that again. You start to get reaction. You tell us, we're like, oh, we have a tiger by the tail here. We have something to at least move farther on with. Okay, and once the record's on the air, now you want to do a promotion. Like, hey, look at me. Like, let's do something big for this band. And it could be bringing them to do a concert. It could be, I have a big imagination, which you read about in the book. So I like doing bigger than life promotions. This isn't for a new band, but I think it was for A Momentary Lapse of Reason for Pink Floyd. And I'm trying to remember who the program director was then.
Was it Carrie?
I can't remember, because it would have been 90. No, it would have been 89-ish. I don't know if it was Carrie or if it was Frank Cody. I can't remember, but so I had this idea. I was working with the band, and this was a dicey time because Roger had left the band, and we didn't know. Roger decided he's going to have a solo career. Pink Floyd decided to move on as Pink Floyd. It was very contentious, legal battle. It was just awful, right? They're still feuding to this day, which I don't get. It's like, guys, we all got older now. Like, nobody cares, okay? Like, can you let it go? But it was awful at the time. So I said, look, we need to do some extra things just to make sure. Eventually what happened was people realized that they liked Pink Floyd. They liked it with Syd Barrett. They liked it when Syd left, and they liked Pink Floyd when Roger left. They just still liked Pink Floyd. And Roger built a solo career little by little on his own for himself. So, but I was doing extra things for them. And so I asked them to do some interviews, which they hate doing. And I asked to borrow a couple of their pigs, which they are famous for their big inflatable pigs, which they float over the audience. And I went to, I think, beyond Carrie, I had to go to the general manager of KLOS.
Bill Summers.
Yeah, Bill. Great guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, Bill, listen, I want to do this thing. I want to, Pink Floyd's going to come with this new tour and this new album. It's going to be huge. I want to paint your radio station pink because you're right there on La Cienega Boulevard. I want to paint your radio station pink. I'm going to get Pink Floyd's Pig. It's huge. I'm going to fly it over your radio station. I'm going to put 2 Klieg lights on it, big spotlights, so people can't miss it. And then I'm going to talk David Gilmour and Nick Mason into doing an interview on your roof, right? Because these are the kind of things I like to do. I like show-stopping things, right?
It's crazy.
I have a big imagination. I mean,
But it gets the attention also, that's...
Yeah, right, yeah. So it's just going to help me, but it's going to help you, right? And I said, now here's the thing. I know you're thinking about this. I said, but Bill, think about this. If I paint your radio station pink, that means I have to prime it, I have to paint it, but I can't leave it pink. I have to prime it again, and I have to paint it again back to white. So you're going to get a free paint job. That's how I sold it to Bill Summers.
I just want to say that the radio station was in a very piece of shit building. So the paint might have been the only thing holding that station together.
So whatever it was.
It was like built in the 40s. Howard Cosell refused to go there because KABC was in the same building.
Yes, no, KABC
I am not going to that building.
Oh, well, anyway. So, those of us who loved it, that was our building. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what sold him. And David and Nick grumbled about it, but they got on the roof and they did the interview, and it stopped traffic on La Cienega Boulevard for an hour.
Because La Cienega, for those that don't know, that's like a 3-lane each way.
It's like almost
it just stopped. Right. It just people were just like, "Is this happening?" So you do those things to call attention. In later years, during the Division Bell, I created a psychedelic airship for those guys. There's a whole story in the book about, how that was created. It flew all around the country, gave rides to fans. I had radio stations in the gondola reporting live, doing their shows, morning shows, doing live from the Pink Floyd airship. So a lot of the things you read are things I did just because this couldn't happen today. I mean, I would call New York and go, listen, I just saw an invention of a new laser beam that shoots 30 miles. It's for outside. Looks like a death ray. Looks like War of the Worlds. And Blue Oyster Cult has a new album, and they're heavily in laser technology. Early on, The Who, Pink Floyd, and Blue Oyster Cult were all experimenting with laser technology in their shows. And I always like to take a page from someone's music or their live performance when I do a promotion, because I want it to make sense. I just don't want it to be a big look here. The Pink Floyd thing has to make sense. You need to see the pig. If it's Blue Oyster Cult, everybody goes to see them into the lasers. It has to make sense. Now I call New York and say, listen, I need $4,000 to shoot a laser beam off a mountainside. And the answer in the 70s was like, rap. Of course you do.
It's better than because now would be no.
They were used to me, right? So, yeah, but I mean, imagine today if you went in and said, because today, sadly, the phrase I always hear is, don't leave any money on the table. Don't leave any money on the table. Well, if you don't leave any money on the table, where's the money? Where's the spark? Where's the pizzazz? Where's the fun? Everything just can't be about money. It just can't work like that, especially if you're in the entertainment business. You went to somebody today and said, I want an airship. Oh, by the way, it costs, $750,000 for 3 months. You rent it. They'd throw you out of their office, right? Yeah. So it's a special time when we were making enough money that we could afford to do these things, but we weren't penny pinching. We were giving artists the best recording studios with the best producers, right? Make the best music you can. We're going to give you the best marketing people. We're going to put you on tour. We're going to make videos. We're going to spend money.
Do you think that's because at that time, the money was so new and so much was now coming in that it's almost like, what do we do with this? And it's kind of like this, it's just so much coming in. It's like, yeah, go ahead, spend it. We got it.
Well, first of all, in the beginning, yes, because the business is exploding. Right. I mean, I get into the music business. Janis Joplin was on Columbia. Bob Dylan was on Columbia. These are people that, were deep inside me as artists. But as soon as I show up, 69, 70, in college, the first thing I promoted at UCLA was the first Santana album.
Wow.
They told me we got this band Santana. It was interesting because the people that I went to work for were mostly people from the 50s. So this new music honestly, they didn't understand it. They're used to working with, Neil Diamond, Barbra Streisand. They would work with, this rock music was new to them, which I came to understand later why they wanted people like me not only to be a street team, they wanted to groom us because they saw we were going to be the next executives because we were from this music, right? This music lives inside of me. I could tell my boss every player in Janis Joplin's band and how they play and why they play and why they, all of these things. And I think in the beginning, so I show up and now there's a new band called Aerosmith. There's a new guy named Bruce Springsteen. There's a new guy named Billy Joel. Nobody's ever heard of these people, right? Loggins and Messina from the West Coast. These are all brand new people, and it takes them time to develop, right? They got to play clubs. We got to get radio airplay. Their first records aren't necessarily that great. Bruce Springsteen's first 2 albums.
Yeah.
The reason why Mary Turner got that interview is because Mary Turner was the person, Stephen Kleen played Bruce a couple times, but Mary at night would play Bruce Springsteen. She got it. She understood it. Nobody else in all of Southern California played Bruce Springsteen except Mary Turner.
That's something that was like such a big fact to me. It's like I was really late in getting turned on to Bruce because I think living here, nobody really played it. And I went to school at night or worked at night, so I didn't get to hear Mary all the time. But, it was Kay West, was really playing a lot of Bruce at the time. I think Jim McKeon was there.
Yeah, well, at this time, he's now. I'm trying to think what album. Maybe it's it. I'm terrible with time. I'm trying to remember when Born to Run came out and when
75
and when McKeon is at Kay West. But it is at that time. And I'll tell you why I remember that. There's 2 broadcasts in L.A. that were big broadcasts. Okay, so the famous one is the 1978 one that you read about. That broadcast is actually known as Bruce's, if you look on the archives, that's his number 1 best live radio broadcast. That's what they think is the number 1 broadcast. So it means a lot to me because I was a big part of his career in the beginning. So to be a part of that, to be able to have put that together, just as insane as it was that you read about, getting my head caved in by the general manager, beating my head against the wall. I mean, that's, So, but before that, there was another one. And I guess, and I'm wondering, as I think it had to be the Born to Run tour because the Darkness tour, I think, is the 78 one. So
he played the Roxy, I think it was 75 also.
Yeah, and Kay West got that broadcast because Richard Kimball, another famous radio guy in L.A., who had worked at KMET, and Jim McKeon had brought over to Kay West. I'll never forget this. I mean, I have like a photographic memory, which is how I'm even able to write all these things you read about. Like you read conversations with Mick Jagger. I remember them. That's how you're able to read about him in this book. So he came. Kay West at the time was breaking a lot of new bands. They were going toe to toe ratings wise with KMET. Mm-hmm. They were breaking bands for me like Journey. They were breaking Supertramp. They broke Dire Straits. KMET at the time had a different program director. I don't want to mention his name, but I was having trouble getting along with the guy. I couldn't get anywhere with. I was just, look, I don't need you to play every record I have, but I need you to listen to me, and I need to be able to come and tell you about this new music. And this particular person just didn't care. So I'm in the hallway of Kay West, and Jim McKeon is there, and Kimball walks up to me and goes, "Hey, Rapp, Bruce is coming to town. He's going to play the Roxy. So who are you going to give the broadcast to?" Pins me. Right now, I am, pretty much a political animal in terms of like trying to make everybody happy. But it dawns on me, this is going to be a question. And I'm thinking as he's telling me this, are you going to thank us for breaking all your bands, or are you going to still give it to KMET, who's not doing anything? And I had to decide. And my decision was, I was going to give this to Kay West, but I had to go see Mary first and apologize and just say, listen, I know you're behind Bruce, but I'm having trouble with your PD. I can't. These guys are breaking every band for every record company. They just kind of deserve it. She understood it at the time. And we were early on in Bruce's career, right? By the time 78 comes, he's a superstar. And that's why what's sad when you read in the books, Mary's supposed to be the host of that show. She and Bruce are tight. Like, they bonded as a thing. This was supposed to be their night together. And as you read, it didn't happen for, stupid reasons. But at any rate, So that first one is on K West, and then the other one, happens. And so these are things that promotion people do to, again, educate the public. Okay, you've heard this Bruce Springsteen music, but live he's like super special. He's like Elvis Presley. You live, you won't believe it. So for a lot of Bruce's career, we did a lot of live broadcasts across the country because this is what really broke him. Because seeing Bruce live is like, there's nothing like it in the world. So as good as his records are, those first two records, and they're pretty good records. They're not Born to Run. After Born to Run, it explodes after that. But when everybody makes their first two records, they're still on a learning curve, and those records have really good songs on them. They're fun to listen to. So then after that, then it's like, okay, let's do some big promotions. We can do promotions that drive people to record stores. But I like doing these massive events where a whole city, we shot that laser beam off Signal Hill. And we did the promotion with KNAC in Long Beach because they were the people that helped me break Blue Oyster Cult early on.
That was a good station back then. KNAC, even like what they did, rock and rhythm and stuff like that, was good.
Yeah, no, they were a great station, and the thing was because they were owned by a family, they didn't have the pressure, that a KMET would have, or a KLOS, for ratings, because they were owned by big companies or corporations. And so they could be more freewheeling with their music. So the program director could play more new music. So we would get a lot of records, let's say, started at KNAC. So again, for people that are listening, and this is a true story, I went to KMET with the first Aerosmith album. Okay, this is the rock station in LA. And I was told by whoever was running it then, we don't like this. It's too loud. It's too raunchy. I said, well, isn't rock and roll loud and raunchy? Well, we're not into it. Fine. So I go down to KNAC where Ron McCoy's running KNAC. He goes, I love this. He starts playing Aerosmith. Well, people start calling. All of a sudden there's more airplay. More people are calling. All of a sudden we're selling records. Now I go back to KMET and go, look, you may have missed this. Happens to all of us. I don't hear everything. Bands comes on tour, and now that's how records and bands are built. With airplay from one station, you go to another station. Hey, this is working in Long Beach. And then somebody goes, and I'm on a conference call. Oh, hey, this is working in California. You in Chicago, go tell your Chicago station. This is how records are built, and bands tour clubs, and then they go to theaters, and then they get into arenas. And it's an education process, right? So by this time, Blue Oyster Cult's already established, but I wanted to just do something big, because when I heard the Agents of Fortune album, I heard Don't Fear the Reaper. And I went, oh my God, this is going to be huge.
You and everybody.
And yeah, right. So I was watching television, and I saw in North Hollywood, somebody had developed, a laboratory had developed a laser cannon that shot for 30 miles, right? And so I called New York. They gave me the money. I said, will you rent this to me? Yeah, it'll help us. And so I'm on with that program director, Paul Sullivan. We're up on Signal Hill. And the idea is that we're going to shoot this thing. And then he's going to play the new album. And the laser is going to do a light show for the city of Long Beach, all of Orange County, all the way to Pasadena. Like, it's going to be a light show in the
30
sky.
miles, right?
Yeah. When we turned it on, it was so scary. My first inclination was, we got to shut this off. Nobody had ever seen anything like it.
I would think FAA would be calling you.
Well, I did due diligence. I did call the Long Beach airport 2 weeks before and said, I'm going to do this, and you need to know about it, because I don't want 747s thinking this is the flight path.
Right.
So I did. That I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I told them I'm going to do this. So when you see it, and there's a picture in the book that gives you an idea. It doesn't really do it justice. But when a laser beam is as bright at its end as it is at the origin, right? So people in Pasadena see this thing being shot at them, right? If you know that this is a promotion, you're listening to KNEC, you're having a laser party. You're on your front lawn, you're drinking wine, you're smoking dope, you're looking at the sky, you got KNAC on, you're watching the laser, right? But if you don't know what it is,
it's a UFO.
We scared the shit out of a lot of people.
Yeah.
In it, are we allowed to curse?
Yeah.
I just cursed.
Yes, you did.
Okay. Well, in LA, people freaked. They thought it was War of the Worlds. They thought it was a death ray, because you've never seen anything like this giant beam of light that shoots for 30 miles. And then they're dancing. Now it's pulsing, right? Now it's going tick, 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 tick. It's going across the sky. I mean, So we made the evening news, which, that's what I wanted to do. And just everybody talked about it. And so these things help take a band to a next level. And that's what, promotion is. And so it's like, get the record played. Also, you read in the book how once I got to New York and I became the head of rock promotion, now it's heavy. Now you're in charge of people's careers. And now your job is to make sure that all of these albums, and if you work at Columbia Records, we could release 8 or 10 albums at once. So you've got superstars being released. You're right. So you're trying to take care. None of this stuff happens on its own.
A huge
records
catalog.
just don't get released on.
Huge.
Yes. But what people have to understand is even if you have a Rolling Stones record or a Pink Floyd record, you need to make people aware. You have to play them the music. You have to monitor the airplay. You're looking for someone to add a record. You're looking for upward movement. Oh, how's this working? Is it in medium rotation? When will it go to heavy rotation? I'm in charge of 10 albums at once, and I have to make sure that every one of these albums moves up the chart at least 10 places while they're on the chart, so that they remain alive, so that radio people such as yourselves look at the charts and go, oh, this record's still alive. It's moving up the charts. Let's keep playing it. Because when records stall on the chart or go down or go backwards, that's when radio people are like, oh, I guess this is, fading or whatever. So, you're trying to get brand new bands that nobody's ever heard of. Psychedelic Furs, Men at Work, Midnight Oil.
Fabulous Poodles.
Fabulous Poodles. Boomtown Rats. All of this you're trying
Poodles
to get.
Are still waiting.
Yeah, yes, no, I can't, I sent the book to Bob Geldof, right? And if you know Bob, I don't know if you know Bob Geldof, but he's a pisser, right? Okay, so I sent this book to Bob because I know he's going to appreciate it, especially about the Fabulous Poodles, because Bob was nothing but a complaint machine, right? As you read about in the book. So it's a good friend of mine, Mary Beth Medley, who was the manager of Boomtown Rats. So she gives the book to Geldof. 2 weeks later, I get a note from Geldof. Bob wants to know, where are his other 2 chapters? Right?
That's perfect.
Maybe I think he saw 2 chapters on Bruce and got upset. Right?
Oh my God.
So, so anyway, but, you have to be in charge of these things. This is like, you have to have a battle plan. Each album has to have a plan. Each week, I need this record to do this. I need this record to do this. I need these people. I need these many radio stations to add this record to make sure that it's got life. So when you get to be the head of promotion, okay, yeah, you're still trying to get records on the ISO call people, but there's a whole slew of people who I used to be, local or regional promotion people, that physically go into radio stations and play music, for people like you guys. But now I'm in charge of all of this to make this happen. And it's quite, a job to make sure everybody's happy at the end of the week. So then when you become the head of rock promotion, that becomes your job. Now, if you're me, hang on, for anybody that's listening, I'm having a sip of tea.
The book is Gliders Over Hollywood, Airships, Airplay, and the Art of Rock Promotion. It is
Thank you
Paul
very much.
Rappaport who has these amazing stories.
Right. So I'm drinking tea. I'm drinking Thai food tea, by the way, because I got to work with Mick Jones from The Clash. So
Wow.
I'm sidestepping here for a second.
Today you got to work with him?
No. Back in the day, we had a band, Big Audio Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
And all I'd heard was horror stories about these guys. Right. My friend Sandy Perlman had actually produced a record with him. He was visibly shaken when he came back after working with The Clash. And all I hear about is, oh my God, The Clash. So I'm like, we got big on it. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to meet, Mick, from The Clash. And so my knees are kind of knocking, and he walks in and he looks at me and I look at him and he goes, would you like some Thai food tea? He's got this really thick accent, right? And I realize he's offering me tea. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So he tells me about Thai food tea, which is in England, there's PG tips in Thai food, the common folk, this is what they drink. So I drink Thai food tea now because of Mick from The Clash. Because he turned me on to Thai food tea. Anyway, he turned out to be a lovely guy. I had a guy got on great with him. We did all kinds of fun stuff. I did a live broadcast from London around the world with him. So, at any rate, I digress. So I like doing big things. And also I think in our business, a lot of us like to do bigger than life things because it would help the bands, but it would also help our career. If you could make things happen that no one else did, it helped you to remain as seen as somebody special. So you read in the book where now that I understand the charts, I understand that you can actually finesse the charts, which is a polite way to say manipulate the charts. So
there was a time when some people actually disliked you. Other people that were in record companies because of that.
Yes. Now, it's something you shouldn't do a lot because it's not fair, right? The charts are the charts. You get airplay. Whoever gets the most airplay, becomes number one song, usually a number one album. And so there's light, medium, and heavy rotation. But I would like to do things for artists that had never been done before. I'd say largely because I love their music and also, telling you the truth. Here's my rock and roll confession. I was trying to think about, you guys said people confess to stuff. And I'm like thinking, I don't have anything to confess to.
Your book is a confession. It's
all in the book. Yeah, my book's a confession, right?
The whole book.
But here's a real confession. And I think I wrote this in the book, but I also did it for me. Because I wanted I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be seen. It may be an ego thing, a pride thing. I don't know what it is. But I wanted to be the greatest rock promotion man of all time. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be it. And so I would put myself into positions. It's just like if you're Michael Jordan, I want to be the greatest basketball player or, any sports figure. I needed.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani. I needed to be that. I don't know. Someone would have to sit me in an office and shrink me up to explain why. I don't know. But anyway, so I wrote, as you read in the book, the Rolling Stones, since I'm 17 years old, have meant everything to me. The British Invasion comes, the Beatles, I like the Beatles. When the Stones comes, I'm like, oh, no. These guys are my guys. This is blues. I'm into this. I love these guys. They're dangerous. I'm only 17 years old. Like, I want to be dangerous, right? I want to be in that gang. And I learned how to play electric guitar listening to Keith Richards. Like I can play electric guitar. I'm playing surf music because that's what was happening in the 60s. But now this is different. And I'm like, how does he do this? I'm literally learning how to play guitar. Listening to this guy, he gets deep in my DNA from seeing all the concerts. It's another story you read in the book later. Imagine meeting him and getting a guitar lesson from your hero. I mean, come on. So when the Stones came to Columbia, they were feuding. Mick had a solo album. That was the first thing I promoted. We had an album called Dirty Work, which was pretty good album. But they realized they had to unlock something big. They also realized as they watched the 80s roll by, there's a lot of new rock acts. And they had been dormant. And they were like, wait a minute, we're the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
So they decided to set the record straight. So Mick and Keith made up. They went in and created Steel Wheels, really worked hard at making a really great Stones album, put together a giant tour because they wanted to set the record straight. Elbows out. Yeah. Okay. We know all you bands in the 80s, but just so you know, this is the greatest rock and roll band in the world. And they set out to do that. So I got invited into their camp and I finally got to be one of the gang, right? It was the gang I always wanted to be a part of. And it was fabulous. And, learned a lot from them, got to hang out, with them. And so when Steel Wheels comes along, I hear 3 rock singles. So just for anybody who's listening, the normal way that this happens is you release a single to rock radio, and then there'll be a single for top 40, but we're talking rock. So you're going to release your first track even before the album comes out to create interest. So, 2 weeks later when the album comes out, people are streaming into the stores because they've heard this song for 2 weeks. That first single, if you're the Rolling Stones or if you're ZZ Top or if you're Pink Floyd or if you're, super duper star, it's going to debut at number 1 because everybody's going to put it in heavy rotation. It just happens. Okay. people get excited. I mean, we help make people excited. We send T-shirts with all these kind of things. We put ads in the trades. Get ready. It's going to be, steel wheels. Okay. Generally what happens is, let's say radio plays that heavy rotation for about 4 weeks. Okay. Then it's going to start to burn out. Listeners get tired of it. And, people like, Rita, like yourself, you're going to take a record like that and you're going to kick it back in rotation. Now it's going to get into a recurrent, or it's going to go into a medium rotation. It's going to work its way down. We're paying attention. So when that happens, we release a second single and it goes up the charts as the other one's coming down, and they meet somewhere in the middle, like at number 22. And we work the new one, and we eventually get it to number 1, and the other one fades away. But I wanted to do something special because they were the Stones. These guys, trust me, they're pirates. The Rolling Stones are pirates.
Yeah.
Now I'm part of the gang, and I'm a pirate too. And our flag isn't the skull and crossbones. We're flying the flag of the tongue and lips logo, right? And we're out to set the world on fire. So I get this idea, wait a minute. What if I could debut, right, their singles at number 1? Forget working it up slowly. Literally replace the one number 1 song with other number 1 song, but it's the Rolling Stones. So then I get this in my head. Okay, what do I want? I want all Rolling Stones all the time. So again, it's creative in that it's chart. If you know how the chart works, it's by math, right? And I should point out also that in our business, in the rock business, we didn't have payola. It did exist on the top 40 side. You can read about it in my book a little bit. But, if you paint KLOS pink and put a pig up there, Carrie Kurlop will call you and go, yeah, you have a new band. Can I help you? Like, this is how this worked, right? This was it was a give and take kind of business, right? So, but I'm thinking, wait a second. Think about this. You debut at number 1, right? So I wait and wait and wait and wait and wait until the program directors are calling me going, will you please release the next single off, Steel Wheels? Because, the first song was Mixed Emotions. It's just, it's burnt. It's fried. It's got to drop. So I wait and I wait and I wait and I wait. And finally I release Rock at a Hard Place. And guess what happens? People like Rita go, oh, we got the new Stones single. Put it in the same place that Mixed Emotions was in the heaviest rotation, because they're going on tour, or they're on tour at this point. And that's going to replace that one. Okay. Now 2 things happen. Okay. We hit number 1. The second one now is probably dropped to 5. Now we got 2 in the top 10. But the thing that also happens is, and this is not the not fair part, anybody who was number 2 or anybody who was number 5 who wanted to work their way up, to number 1, I've essentially blocked them from getting there, because for 4 more weeks, it's going to be Rolling Stones and it's going to be, Rock in a Hard Place. I start to get phone calls. Now I'm used to these phone calls. You'll read in the book. There's another story where I shot a record from 5 to 1. Nobody was happy about that, because when you mess with the charts, if you shoot a record from 5 to 1 that isn't supposed to go there, it makes all the records go backwards on the chart. Nobody's expecting it. When records go backwards, as I explained earlier, radio people are going, oh, these records are over. So when I did that one, I got calls from all my competitors going, what the hell have you done? We have to call all our radio stations and tell them our records are still alive. You've goofed up the charts. It's something you can read about in the book.
You're cheating.
I did it. I'm proud of it. Whatever. But anyway, but it's not fair. Okay. The truth is it's not fair. So now I get calls again. I did this for a guy named Tommy Conwell. So all my competitors are calling me, different promotion people, like, well, you had to pull this stunt again. You didn't learn your lesson with Tommy Conwell. Like, you goofed up the whole charts for the whole industry for like 3 weeks. Like, what are you doing? And all I could say was, listen, it's the Rolling Stones. They're coming back to be where they're supposed to be, where they belong. We're doing this as a team. And they just meant more to me than any other band in my whole life. I could give you reason upon reason, and it won't be logical to you. And I'm sorry, because I know you have new bands that everyone wants to be number 1. Okay. And it just, did I have to do it? No, I wanted to do it because I knew it would make headlines. The problem was when I did it a third time. That's when the shit hit the fan. Because after watching Rock in a Hard Place, I went, okay, I've got a ballad, Almost Hear You Sigh.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can do this again. And I do it again. I wait and I wait and I wait. And programmers are calling me up going, will you please release another single? And it's like an archer, like you have a bow, right? And you're pulling your arrow back. Shoo! Finally let it fly. Same exact thing happens. Every programmer takes Almost Hear You Sigh, puts it in the heavy rotation that Rock in a Hard Place was. And Rock in a Hard, okay. Charts come out the next week. Debut number 1, 3 in a row. Rock and roll history. No one's ever done it before. So I can go to the Rolling Stones and say, no one has ever done this in the history of rock. No one's ever going to do it again, right? This is totally historical. But essentially, that blocks out every other band or artist from being number 1 for 3.5 months, right? And that's when the shit hit the fan. Forget my competitors calling me. You got record presidents calling my president. Fire this guy. You can't do this. You can't control the number 1 spot for 3 months on the charts. This isn't fair. This is total bullshit. I want this guy fired. Da-da-da-da. And they should be mad. I mean, I would have been mad, right? I mean, they had a right to be mad. It got so bad, I had to leave the office. I mean, I literally had to leave the office for like a day because no one was going to believe, oh, he's busy, he'll call you back. No, Rapp's out of town or whatever. I had to leave the office. I mean, Columbia Records loved it. The Stones loved it. I mean, you read in the book, I went backstage to tell them, you know, and Keith, being Keith, looks at me and he goes, can you do it again? I'm like, Keith, if I do this again, I will be killed.
Oh.
And then he looks at me very evenly and goes, well, it is the Stones, man. You know, as if to say, if I had to, you know, take a bullet for them, he'd be okay with it, right? Because it's for the Stones, right?
And Mick was just as thankful, wasn't he?
Mick's funny. First of all, Keith, people need to. Another reason I wrote this book, I want people to meet these people as different people than they usually meet. You get in this book, you're going to get to meet Keith and Mick and Elvis Costello and Bruce and Bob Dylan in a different way than you know them. And I want you to know them that way because that's how I knew them. And if you're a rock fan, I just want to share these stories with you, right? That's why I wrote this. Trust me, there's not a lot of money in books like this. It's not for money.
But it is a great read. I got to say, it's a really great read. And if you're
I appreciate
radio
it.
fan,
Thank you.
record company fan, or music fan,
Rock and roll fan.
you're really going to enjoy all these stories.
Yes, I'm. Thank you very much. It took me 6 years and 4 editors to get this to be this where it is. So at any rate, everybody's different. You know, Keith, he's a really nice guy. There's a picture in my book with me and Keith and my young son, who I think's 8 at the time, Adam. And it's when I went backstage to tell him about this because I brought Adam to meet the Rolling Stones because I was going to be a big deal and to see the show. In the picture, we're kneeling down. The reason we're kneeling down is because Keith looked over at me, and instead of being the rock star with the scarf and he goes, Paul, your son, he's little. We should kneel down. We should kneel down for the photo. This is Keith, right? This is like a human being that's sensitive. That's the reason we're kneeling. I want people to know that Keith. Right, you'll meet the other Keith in the beginning of the book. There's
New
that
Barbarians.
New Barbarians, you know. But now Mick is different. So Keith gives me a hug, right? When I tell him 3 number ones, gives me a hug, spins me around, kicks me in the butt, spins me around again, and hugs me again, and thanks me, and then asks me if I can do it again. Okay, and he's serious, right?
Yeah.
Now you go tell Mick. Mick is really all about the business. Now, Mick does have a heart. He is sensitive, which is a part in my book where I saw that heart, which I want people to know, because most people that deal with Mick know a business-man. I mean, he's a rock and roller. He's an amazing front man.
Two biggest businessmen in business, Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney.
Yes. So they know. There's a reason the Rolling Stones are still around and doing what they're doing, and I wouldn't take anything away from Keith. But Mick's, the mind is always spinning with what can we do next? How do we make this better? When do we plan this tour? When you got to realize Mick had to do this on his own for 10 years when Keith had checked out on heroin. Like it was rough. You read in Keith's book, Keith comes back and Keith says, what are we doing? And Mick's like, well, what do you mean we? Like, well, I've been doing this for, and that's hard for Keith to deal with, right? But such as it is, I go tell Mick, 3 number 1 singles debut at number 1. It's rock history. You own the charts at number 1 for 3.5 months. No one's ever done it. No one ever will do it. And he looks at me and he goes, and I can't do his accent exactly, but it's like, well, don't you think we're just a little bit early on that last 12-inch? Just, by 2 weeks. I think we're just early, and I wish I could do Mick. Like some people can do Mick really well, like that, Yeah, but well, he's got the Cockney thing, he's, anyway. And I look at him like, Mick, and I make a smile with my face, like I put my fingers on the sides of my mouth to make a smile, right? Mick, could you just smile once? Just smile, just be happy. Like stop thinking. For 1 second, like him and Springsteen, they're both cerebral, right? Bruce is always thinking, and I'm thinking, is this guy as cerebral as Springsteen? It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, Mick, just smile. It's history. And then he gets it. He goes, yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, means a lot. It sinks in, but I can tell that he goes back to thinking, it's just how he is. I don't mean it in a mean way. It's just that they're different. They're just different people, right?
Well, he's probably figuring he could have sold another 2,000 albums had you waited 2 weeks. And then he would have made another maybe $40.
I guess. I really
wanted to know why
but,
it didn't happen for She's the Boss.
Well, that's a whole nother story. That She's the Boss was a whole nother thing. But it for me, just to be a part of that gang, to give back. Honestly, if you're a kid growing up, and these people help shape your life, right? Bob Dylan, what a thrill to help Bob Dylan. Like the guy changed my life. I am a kid. I don't even know if I'm going to fit in the world. I don't fit. I'm a 60s kid. I'm looking at the fit. They're telling me you're going to be a lawyer. Or you're going to be this. You're going to be like, I don't want to be those things.
You're going to go to Vietnam. You were at that time.
Well, that was a whole other thing. But I don't know where I fit. Now a new guy comes along and goes, no, don't worry. The times are changing and the world's going to change and you can be different. And so these people shape my life. So when I get to work closely with them, it's an honor and it's fulfilling because I get to help them. You even read in the book where Bob was having a tough time and I got to help him out. And it was like, it just mattered a lot to me. Like I get to do this for these people who taught me how to play guitar and put all these messages inside of me. And, so it was fantastic to be able to work with these people, on these kind of levels. And they really appreciated it. I mean, they could tell that you were giving 110%. These people are smart people. They know what you're doing for them. And I get a call from, you read in the book, I get a call from Mick Jagger from Paris as a thank you for something I did on She's the Boss. Because it matters to him, right? What a cool thing. Mick Jagger, he doesn't have to call me, but he calls and introduces himself, right? And I'm like flipping out because it's Mick Jagger, but, he's that guy,
Okay, well, that was only part 1, but god dang, what some great stories he told, and there's so many great stories in the book. I mean, I love reading the book.
Yeah, the book was fabulous. I mean, I'm not what you call a great reader.
Worse.
I mean, I enjoy reading, but my mind is, I think like yours, CW, it's like bing, bong, boom, this thing, that thing, tangent talk, and it just gets me going. But this one kept my attention all the way through. A really good read for anybody who loves rock and roll. And like you said, just part 1, and we'll have part 2 soon. So please listen to some of our other interviews with people and bands Paul worked with, including Blue Oyster Cult's Buck Dharma, author Joel Selvin, and Scott Page of Pink Floyd and more.
Yeah, Paul's book, Gliders Over Hollywood, Airships, Airplay, and the Art of Rock Promotion can be purchased at Amazon or, as we always appreciate, support your local bookstore by ordering through them. Check out our show notes on our website. It is rockandrollconfessional.rocks, ROCKS. There you can find links to some of the subjects talked about in today's show, including links to order Paul's book, plus some descriptions on some of the people he was talking about in the episode, some videos and exclusive pictures, which one of them, or a few of them, actually include the KLOS radio station in pink with the pink pig from Pink Floyd hanging there in front of it. And there's some other really cool pictures of Paul with some of his celebrity friends.
So we'll have part 2 soon. Please support the podcast by subscribing wherever you can, writing a review, follow and comment on Instagram and Facebook. CW does a magnificent job updating the website every day, sharing our posts with your friends. That's it for this show, y'all. Keep rocking, okay?
Yeah, thanks everybody, and stay tuned for part 2. It'll be in a couple weeks. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.